All right. Welcome back, everybody. Joining me tonight is Shawn Coleman, who is one of the co-hosts of Hammer Territory, which is the Braves podcast of the Foul Territory Network. And I'm told that Shawn is completely devastated that Max Fried is now a New York Yankee. So I appreciate him taking some time to join us tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And hey, always happy to discuss Max Fried, even though it's a bit sad that we're no longer going to talk about him in a Braves uniform. Great Yankees get, though.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I've been watching a lot of his highlights. I've been looking into the metrics. He seems like a great pickup. I want to know a little bit more about who he is as a person. Then we'll dive into who he is as a pitcher. Are there any memorable stories from his time with the Braves that kind of illustrate, who he was as a guy, as a dude?
Yeah, he's just a great guy. Like that's what you can say about Max Fried. He's a great pitcher, and the thing that stands out about Max Fried more than anything is his consistency. He has consistently been a top of the rotation pitcher since he emerged on the scene as a go-to starter for the Braves in 2019. But we'll get into his pitching in a moment. It's not just that; it's his consistency as a person. Great teammate, great person, very supportive teammate. Never seems to be anything other than locked in, but also just focused. He seems to be just the if you could think of a dream teammate, he, as well as others, Hayes mentioned that that's his goal to be as a person and as a player, but many others have said that about him as well. He's also a great interview, a very transparent, very honest player who will give you, a straightforward opinion on things. So he's a great leader to have in the clubhouse, a great presence to have in the clubhouse. You probably won't hear much about him or much from him when he's not pitching, but that doesn't mean that he's not making an impact. And his teammates for years have said that he's been one of the leaders in the clubhouses for the Braves and just a great overall leader and teammate.
What's something that Yankees fans should know about him that maybe we don't know? Is there something like quirky about him or anything that, is he a big fisherman or something, anything like that?
Well, there's not much out there as far as, we've never really been introduced to Max Fried off the field just too much. There is a fun story. Of course, we know that Dansby Swanson is married to a U.S. women's team soccer player, Mallory Swanson. Max Fried actually went with both of them to the 2019 ESPYs with U.S. soccer player Rose Lavelle. There was a bit of a rumor that perhaps there was a romance there, but that, I don't ever know if anything beyond that materialized. Of course, baseball fans probably do know that Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, as well as Lucas Giolito were high school teammates out in California. They all went to the same high school, so they've been, pretty connected. And if there's one other thing that stands out about Max Fried, it's the fact that overall he's just a really good baseball player. Silver Slugger winner, multiple time Gold Glove winner. He's been one of the most effective pitchers when it comes to pickoffs in the game. And of course, his best on the field memory is when he got his foot stepped on in Game 6 of the 21 World Series, being able to come back and being able to lead the Braves to that World Series title. So a great all-around baseball player and someone who nothing's really going to deter him from stepping up in a big moment.
I'll pull up his StatCast data and we can kind of take a look at his metrics and his arsenal. I was kind of hoping that you could break down his repertoire. What are his go-to pitches? How does he attack lefties versus righties? Tell me about the curveball. I've heard the curveball is really good. Just kind of break him down as a pitcher.
So I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a clone of Framber Valdez because that's not necessarily the case, but it's a very similar overall approach. He does use a fastball, though his fastball usage in terms of a pure four-seamer has kind of gone down a bit over the years, but that's because he's mixed in some more of a changeup, more of a sinker as well. If you look at his 2024 performance, Baseball Savant will show you that he used 7 pitches, a sweeper, a slider, as well as I believe a cutter. He uses those sparingly, but it's mainly the fastball, and working off of that, the curveball, which has been one of the best curveballs since Max Fried has been a starter over the past 5 years, with an effective changeup as well as a sinker. And what Max Fried is able to do consistently, he's able to throw any of his pitches at any time for a strike, but also locate them where he wants to be able to mix in to outthink hitters. He's a very cerebral pitcher, not someone who uses a lot of velocity. I think about 93.5 miles per hour usually on his fastball if you look at it per season. But when it comes to that mixture of the curveball, changeup, and sinker, Very good ground ball rate, one of the best in baseball. Very good control, only a 6%, 6.5% walk rate throughout his career, and very good at limiting home runs. So if you were to think of a perfect left-hander to put into Yankee Stadium, it would be Max Fried. Whereas a lot of pitchers find their success, with the heavy fastball and velocity, Max Fried does just about everything else at an elite level, and that's why he's been so consistent as a top of the rotation pitcher.
Sounds like pitcher is the key word here, not just a thrower, which
Yeah.
I really appreciate. We've had some good lefties over the year. Andy Pettit, David Wells, a lot of these crafty kind of guys. But one thing that concerns me, and I've seen this brought up among Yankees fans online on the message boards in my comment section, is that he's had a little bit of a elbow/forearm thing in the past. I know he made 29 starts this year, but just 14 the year before. Are there any long-term concerns about his durability? I mean, what do we know about his arm injury in the past?
Yeah, in 2023, he missed from early May through September with what was more of a forearm strain. Basically, the way that him and the Braves described it, they found the forearm discomfort before it turned into what could have led to Tommy John surgery. He was out, got some rest, and was able to come back and pitch okay. Last year, he did throw 175 innings, but he still did have a little bit of an arm discomfort thing again pop up in August. Yes, it's good that he was able to pitch 175 innings last year, but I do think that there is reason to be a bit concerned with the fact that 2 straight years there has been a bit of arm concern, and especially ailments that you see, be precursors to what could be Tommy John surgery. I'm not saying he's going to have that in the next 12 months. I'm just saying it is something relevant to be concerned about. The other thing that stands out about Max Fried is that yes, he is a big game pitcher, which I know we'll talk about in just a moment, but he also has had some questions about his effectiveness when it comes to the playoffs, and he struggled in playoff performances over the past 3 years. 2022, it was a sickness. 2023, it was a blister. And then last year, it was a bit of, being wild when it came back from coming from his August injury. So there has been questions about his end of the year effectiveness over the past few years. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form makes you concerned about putting him out there on the mound in the playoffs, but it's just something to consider when it comes to, okay, if he clears 175 innings in a season, is he going to be as effective as he's been all year long once the playoffs roll around?
Yeah, definitely an 8-year contract to a guy who has some elbow issues is going to make some people flinch. Is there a concern that maybe he pitched through some things because he was going to be a free agent, or is it just kind of like they were letting him get back to 100% no matter what? Did you get any kind of feeling like when the season ended he wasn't 100%?
That could have been the case, and I think that Max Fried is, he's an ultimate competitor as well. But I also feel that Max Fried, he's a professional among professionals, right? I think that he is the type of person, type of teammate, where if he felt that his performance was not where he wanted it to be, especially with how prepared he is very much a creature of habit. He is very much someone who is committed to his craft and committed to his routine. So I feel like that if there would have been a clear concern that he didn't think he could go, he would have let the Braves know. I think that he was probably close to 100% or fine. It's just that he also, over the past couple of years, has just been dealing with that arm injury that he's had to work through. So, in terms of him aging, do I think that there is a relevant possibility of an arm injury? Possibly, potentially, not, and just not, with the normal stuff that you see as pitchers age. He has had a few scares recently. I do think his stuff and the way that he finds success may age a bit better because he's not so reliant on velocity and strikeouts and things like that. But I do think that he's someone who's going to be able to give you 150, 160 innings pretty regularly. But I do think it's relevant over the past few years. If that were to lead to a serious arm injury in the next 2 or 3, it would not be surprising.
Interesting. Well, good to know. Final question, because he is going from a market which is a little less brutal on players than New York is. How do you think that he'll handle the New York media, sort of the pressure cooker?
I think that he will instantly become one of the Yankees fan base's favorites because he is someone that can handle the media just fine. Again, when I say being transparent. He's a very good speaker. He is a tremendously good speaker. He will give you straightforward answers. There have been a few times, not necessarily in terms of like, controversial answers, but when you hear Max Fried's answer, like for instance on his injury in 2023, you're surprised that he would give you this much information on what he's been working through. So it's been very, very, very good to see him. That was one of the best things about him. He was a great interview. And I think that's something that will stand out about him for Yankees fans. And I will say this, while it's been a mixed bag when it comes to his playoff performance for the Braves since he won that Game 6 in 2021, he's still a big game pitcher. Since 2019, when you look at all the pitchers in baseball, there have been 26 pitchers in baseball who have thrown 200 or more innings on the road against winning teams, against teams with a 500 or better record. He has the 4th best ERA in those games. Second is Gerrit Cole. So I would say that Gerrit Cole and Max Fried, that's about as good a 1-2 combination in a playoff setup that you would want. So I would have a lot of confidence in him when it comes to handling the pressure both on the mound and off the mound when it comes to New York, whether it's in New York or on the road.
I appreciate it, Shawn. Everyone out there, check out Hammer Territory. It's the official podcast of the Braves for the Foul Territory Network. They do a great job. Shawn, once again, thank you, and wishing you guys a ton of success this season.
Same to you. Hopefully we'll see y'all in the World Series this year.
All right, and hopefully it goes like the last 2 times. All right? All right, we'll see you next time.